Johnny Depp had spent nearly 4 decades mastering the art of becoming other people. Pirates, gangsters, lost boys, lovers, madmen. He'd vanished into roles with chameleon-like ease, building a career on mystery and transformation. But nothing had prepared him for the role the world cast him in after the lawsuit. Not as an actor, but as a symbol. After the highly publicized defamation trial against his ex-wife Amber Heard ended, Depp stood at the podium during a quiet, somber press event in London. The chaos of the courtroom was behind him, but the weight of it still lingered in his voice. "I became a crash test dummy for the #MeToo movement," he said, pausing just enough for the world to feel the gravity of his words. And the media was the car. That statement echoed through Hollywood like a shot across the sky. For years, headlines had painted him in broad, brutal strokes. Abuser, alcoholic, has been. Talk show hosts made punchlines out of his life. Former colleagues kept their distance. Movie studios erased him from posters, trailers, entire franchises. He was no longer the mysterious antihero America once adored. He was now an emblem, but not of artistry or rebellion. He was an example. But the truth, as he saw it, had been buried beneath headlines and hashtags. And after the jury found in his favor, awarding him millions in damages, Depp was ready to speak. Not in the snide one-liners of Twitter or the sterile scripts of publicists. He was ready to show the world that he was more than a media narrative. Still, Hollywood wasn't exactly welcoming him back with open arms. Behind closed doors, studio executives whispered about risk optics. Agents hesitated to pick up his calls. Some celebrities who once called him a friend vanished into silence, afraid that associating with him would pull them into the same fire. Only a few brave names, Robert Downey Jr., Penelope Cruz, spoke publicly in his defense. Most remained quiet, watching from a safe distance. In the weeks after the trial, Depp retreated to the south of France, far from paparazzi drones and cable news panels. He picked up his guitar, painted alone at night, surrounded by canvases splattered in blues and reds, rage and sorrow mixing like oil on water. His face, once a staple of magazine covers, now appeared only in deep-dive podcasts or op-eds debating whether his comeback was deserved. To Johnny, it wasn't about coming back. It was about being seen, truly seen, after years of being miscast in a story he didn't write. It wasn't fame Johnny Depp missed, it was the silence. The kind that used to follow him into his trailer after a long take. The quiet hum of crew wrapping cables. The unspoken trust between collaborators who believed in the story more than the noise. That silence had been stolen, replaced by a deafening roar of judgment and hot takes. Everyone had an opinion. Few had the facts. Back in Los Angeles, his name was still radioactive. A-list directors passed him over. Award voters, once charmed by his eccentric characters, now treated him like a ghost at the party. Studios, terrified of trending for the wrong reasons, kept his scripts in drawers. Too soon, they whispered. But Depp was patient. Instead of chasing blockbusters, he turned to Europe. There, in the sun-drenched courtyards of Paris, he found a different rhythm. French director Maïwenn offered him a role in Jean du Barry, a historical drama where he would play King Louis XV. It was a far cry from Jack Sparrow, but it was something real, something honest. France didn't cancel me, he joked to a small group of friends over wine one night. Maybe because they smoked too much to care. Filming Jean du Barry brought back a sense of dignity, not just in acting, but in being heard. The set was free of judgment, the press less feral. For the first time in years, Johnny felt like an actor again, not a headline. But across the Atlantic, the resistance continued. When the Cannes Film Festival announced that Jean du Barry would open the event, American outlets erupted. Activists called it tone-deaf. Former collaborators distanced themselves on social media. An open letter from a small group of indie filmmakers labeled his return a betrayal to survivors everywhere. Johnny didn't respond. He rarely did. Instead, he walked the red carpet at Cannes with quiet defiance. No outbursts, no rehearsed lines, just a nod, a wave, and a gaze that said, "I've been through worse." The media couldn't decide how to cover it. Was this a redemption arc or another example of Hollywood's double standards? One outlet called it the return of a controversial king. Another dubbed it a dangerous step backward. But in person, the reception was different. Fans lined the barricades, screaming his name, holding signs that read justice for Johnny. Older women blew kisses. Young men clutched guitars for him to sign. The applause in the theater lasted 7 minutes after the film ended. Some critics called it the performance of a haunted man. Others dismissed it as too safe. Depp took it all in stride. Let them write what they want, he told his bodyguard. They always have. But behind the calm exterior, he was exhausted. He wasn't trying to reclaim fame. He was trying to reclaim truth in a town that profited off illusion. Hollywood had always been a game of stories. Who tells them, who owns them, and who gets to survive them? For decades, Johnny Depp had played by the rules. He charmed, he performed, he danced between eccentricity and stardom like a man who never feared the fall. But now, after surviving the most humiliating chapter of his life in full public view, he no longer had any interest in playing. He wanted to create. The idea came to him one sleepless night in France. The headlines wouldn't stop, the whispers wouldn't fade. Even after a legal victory, his name was still treated like a warning label. So, instead of chasing Hollywood's approval, he decided to build something outside of it. He called it Silent Cry Productions, a nod to the quiet suffering of those caught in the machinery of fame, scandal, and spin. It would be a company not just for films, but for voices like his, misrepresented, misunderstood, misused. He didn't have to ask for investors. They came to him, quietly, cautiously, but ready. Musicians, actors, even a few ex-studio executives who knew how easily reputations could be shattered. One of them said, "You're not just telling your story anymore. You're opening the door for the rest of us." Depp didn't want vengeance. He wanted perspective. His first project wasn't about pirates or kings. It was a docudrama on false allegations in the entertainment industry. Real stories, real names, no filters. The backlash was immediate. Activist groups called it gaslighting as cinema. Some actors threatened to boycott festivals that supported it. But survivors of false accusations reached out, thanking him. A former stagehand, a stunt double, even a high school drama teacher. All accused, all cleared, but none ever welcomed back. "You gave us a voice," one email read. "They took everything. You're helping us get it back." The docudrama premiered privately at a small venue in Berlin. No red carpets. No paparazzi. Just candles, silence, and truth. It wasn't flashy. It was necessary. And slowly, something shifted. Not in the press. They still rolled their eyes, still clung to the old narrative, but in the hearts of people watching from the sidelines. They began to see the man, not just the myth. The flawed, hurting, quietly fighting man who had once been reduced to a meme. In an interview with a British journalist, Depp was asked what he wanted people to remember about his journey. He paused, then said, "That I didn't let them erase me. That I kept the story honest, even when it hurt." He leaned back in his chair, weathered rings on his fingers, a cigarette in one hand, and added with a grin, "Also, that I make a damn good bottle of wine." Because yes, there was wine now too. A vineyard in the countryside, far from courtrooms and cameras. Art still flowed from him. In paintings, in blues riffs, in short films made with young, unknown actors who'd never gotten a shot in LA. Johnny Depp didn't return to Hollywood. He evolved beyond it. He became what the industry fears most. A man who survived it, who didn't need it, and who told the truth when silence would have been safer. The final shot wasn't of a comeback. It was of a man at peace, sitting on a porch with his guitar and his dog, the vineyard behind him, and the past no longer chasing his heels. Because some stories don't need a sequel. They just need to be told right. Years had passed since the courtroom drama that nearly rewrote Johnny Depp's life. By now, the world had moved on, or so it claimed. New stars were born, new scandals surfaced, and the 24-hour news cycle found fresh meat to chew. But for Depp, the fire never truly burned out. It simply changed color. He was no longer a fixture at award shows, nor did he want to be. His life had shifted into something quieter, something richer. His vineyard in the south of France had become a creative haven, attracting musicians, painters, and filmmakers seeking refuge from the grind of fame. People called it the sanctuary. But Hollywood hadn't forgotten him. It simply didn't know what to do with him anymore. That changed when a young, up-and-coming director named Ava Langford, only 29 and already praised as the female Scorsese, approached him with a screenplay titled Glass Lions. It was a searing psychological drama about redemption, abuse, and media distortion. She wrote the lead with him in mind. A role not as a swashbuckler or a lover, but as a man scarred by truth. A character whose pain was the story. Depp read it in one sitting, his hands trembling by the final page. "You sure you want me in this?" he asked her during their first Zoom call. Ava didn't flinch. "I don't want anyone else." The industry buzzed. The media speculated. But this time, there was no backlash. Something had shifted. A new generation, one raised on nuance and wary of clickbait, embraced the idea of redemption. They weren't interested in caricatures. They wanted complexity. Glass Lions premiered at Sundance to a 10-minute standing ovation. Depp's performance was raw, unfiltered, deeply human. Critics who once mocked him now used words like brave, soulful, and career-defining. But Johnny didn't stick around for the praise. He flew back to France the next morning, slipping quietly out of the spotlight. He'd done what he came to do. Ava later told the press, Johnny didn't just play the character. He exorcised him. The film sparked conversations not just about Depp, but about Hollywood's tendency to chew up and spit out its own. A national talk show invited him to speak. He declined. "The work speaks," he said. "I've already talked enough." But it wasn't silence he left behind. Depp quietly began funding legal defenses for others caught in the storm of public judgment, artists, teachers, journalists, people who'd been accused, destroyed, and forgotten. He refused to publicize it. "This isn't about image," he told his lawyer. "It's about fairness." He became something unexpected, a quiet force of justice in an industry built on injustice. Years later, long after the hashtags faded and the headlines changed, a journalist published a book about the Depp trial, calling it a turning point in cultural accountability. In it, she wrote, "Johnny Depp didn't just survive Hollywood. He outgrew it. And in doing so, he helped us redefine what survival looks like." He read the quote aloud to his daughter one evening under the vineyard stars. She smiled and said, "That's cool, Dad." Depp looked out at the vines, his dog asleep at his feet, and gave a soft, tired smile. Maybe it was cool. Maybe it was justice. But most of all, it was peace.